Hello and welcome to a new chapter, number 25, episode number 17. In this episode, we are going to talk about parameter sniffing. What is this and how to resolve this? My name is José Manuel Jurado. I am a escalation engineer working in Microsoft and subject matter expert in this technology. Well, most probably sometimes you could find that your queries using or calling on one store procedural is when you're using one value for one parameter is taking less time than when you change the value for another one. This is called, normally this situation more or less could be parameter sniffing. I'm going to explain why and what will be the results. So for this example, we are going to create a table that is called nodes that basically contains some primary key, column number, column with name, and also the one column that is called ID. This column, I'm going to create a filter for this column, and I'm going to add in this table and table nodes 4,000 rows with the value number 1 and around 5 million of rows for the value number 2. So I'm going to run this store procedural that basically this store procedural receives a parameter. This parameter is going to count how many rows that we have for the table nodes with this value. Okay, that I pass in the parameter. So I'm going to run clean the the buffer cache and also buffer pool. Please don't do it in production because you are going to be impacting performance. Basically, we use this for this demo, and we are going to run this with this value. When we run this value, as you can see here, that the execution plan right now, it took no more than 1 second to obtain 4,000, to read 4,000 rows. And it's very important to see the execution plan because SQL Server is using one thing. First, it's using seek to filter in all the rows with the value number 1 in the column number ID2. For every row that we have, we are going as in the query, we need to use the column name. SQL Server is going to reach the table nodes again, filtering with the column ID2 and obtain right now and obtain the value of the column name. So that means that for every 40,000 rows, I need to run another 4,000 operations to obtain the value of the column name. What happens if I change the value by the column by the number 2? Well, I'm going to first to clean the buffer pool, because if I run the query right now with the data we have in the buffer pool, most probably is going to take a few seconds, because the data is already in the memory and there is no need to do too much things about it. Also, we could run, one second, we could run the DB's resource stat in order to see what is the impact about the execution when we are using value number 1 or when we are using the value number 2. What happened? What is the reason that executing this value, this value with the value number 2 is taking more time using the same execution plan? We are going to check this one. So right now, as you can see, it's taking less time because the data is already in memory. we have the same execution plan as you could see that we have previously with the value number 1. But in this situation, one thing that we need to pay attention is because in the parameter list, in this plan cache, is using the compile value number 1. So if we run, that's mean that the execution, even when the value is number 2, we are using the statistic, the distribution of the data with the value number 1. Normally, this is fine, it's cool, because at the end we are going to have the same response, but sometimes, depending on the distribution of the data, we could have some impact if perhaps this execution plan will not the best. Of course, you know that with the SQL Server 2022 is going to be modified, or also you could modify this behavior in the properties of the database. But if we run again to know what is the distribution of the data, you could see this big difference. So that means that when we use the value number 2 in this plan cache with the value with the compile value number 1, run 5 millions of operations in the key lookup is taking too much time, right? So in this case, it seems that it's not a right execution plan, and we need to calculate again. So we have in internet, we have many solutions using unknown in the parameters on the stored procedures. We have many options, right? But I'm going to choose with recompile. Basically, it's the first option that is coming to my mind right now. Also, I'm going to clean the buffer. Okay. I'm going to run this with this value. And you are going to see what is the main difference. When we saw that right now it took 4 seconds, if I saw the execution plan is something different. Because SQL Server thinks that they need to obtain, in order to, let's say, to read 5 millions of rows approximately, say it's much better to use one in the to read the cluster index scan, okay, read all the rows, filtering the data, and it's going to be more effective than when we are using the previous key lookup in this process, right? So if we have this option, so even if we run the select start, most probably the CPU will be, as you could see, is less that we have right now. So also, if I try to run this query just only to see, 1 second. If I run the query, as you could see here, sorry, I need to enable the execution plan. We have the execution plan with the value number 1, but with the number 2, right now we have a different, 1 second, a different execution plan. Okay, why? Because SQL Server, based on the statistics that we have for these two index, thinks that it's much better. It's true, it's much better because it's going to take just only 3 seconds or 4 seconds to complete. And if we run, if we see what happened in terms of properties in the parameters list, we are going to see that it's using the compile value number 2. You have here several links that you could use from our web or blog that we have. You could find multiple articles about multiple options, recommendations, issues that we have. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any doubts, questions, etc., please send me an email to jmjurado@microsoft.com.